Brilliant. So, welcome to the Onroad Podcast, and today we've got two special guests actually, but one of them is joining the team, Ant and I, and we'd like to welcome Alex Hagberg to the Onroad Podcast team. He's co-hosting the show, so welcome Alex, and our special guest Scotty Ernst. So, welcome guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Stu.
So, obviously, Scotty, I've never met you before. Obviously, heard you many times. Being sort of a YouTube fan, and I know Ant is as well. Watched many races where you've corner marshals readied and all that. And I will have to get you to say that before this show is over. Unfortunately, sorry to have to do that.
I'm a little rusty. I haven't said it in a few months, so I don't know if I can still,
You very kindly, Alex was the catalyst. He managed to get in touch with you. I know you're a busy guy and you were out racing yourself. And as I say, thanks so much for coming onto the show. It's really great to have you on. So what's life been like for you over the last few weeks and months?
Family time for sure. I think for any of us that are home, RC racing for all of us, especially, guys like Alex, where it's, 100% their life. It's, it's been tough, but I've been at home. Actually, sometimes things work out. They can be a negative, but they can also be a positive and a blessing. And for me, this has been a true blessing. My brother has been down and out, broke his leg terribly the start of March. And thankfully, I've been home and I've been able to help him and do things to help his recovery better. He's been staying over at my house for a while, and, we've been able to help him get on the road to recovery. So a negative definitely turned into a positive, me being home, being able to help him.
Fantastic. I saw you up in Texas doing the Texas Biggie, doing some 8-scap.
Well, yeah, this is a brand new world for me, and I got a taste of 8-scale on-road last year. There's a kind of family reunion race to a good friend of ours that passed away. Sven from Germany, lived in the U.S., worked here, and went to a lot of races with us. And a bunch of his friends on the West Coast put a memorial race together for him. Kind of, all his friends and mates get together to do a little bit of racing. And I got to borrow a car last year and race my good friend Rick Wong, and 8-scale was crazy. It's amazing, the fun. Alex knows he's done it, and it's just, I said, hey, I'm home all summer. I wanted to get a car, go racing, and man, that's some of the most fun I've ever had racing last week. It was amazing.
Congrats on your second place.
Yeah, it was awesome, and Nitro, Alex. It was good. I had a great start. Led to 40-minute main. I led the first 31 minutes, and then unfortunately, a new mistake. I'm a new guy, so I'm learning about the car, and I didn't replace the front belt after practice and qualifying, or I didn't tighten the belt tensioner, and I stripped the front belt with 9 minutes to go. So that's racing, though. But it was still amazing. I got to say this. It was the most fun second place non-winning race I've ever had in my life. It was amazing.
Yeah, I certainly know the feeling of the long mains and the adrenaline rush you get from racing all those long minutes with pit stops and everything. So it's really exciting. And yeah, it was good to see you there on the podium. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about how the lockdown has affected your work, and what does the future look like in the next few months? I mean, it's really hard to predict, but maybe you can tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. For me, my last race was the Motorama race. We had a big indoor motorsports show here on the East Coast, and that was February 16th. And that was the last event I had that I worked. And then as things started to go more and more in February and March got here, obviously the virus is, spread and things like that, and everything started getting canceled. I've totaled up now, I think I'm at about 20 events that I've had to cancel or have been canceled, be it the ETS, EOS, my Asian Nitro Series, my AOC, that's pretty much been postponed for most of the year. So it's It's been tough for sure. Not being able to work, be honest, financially, it's tough for any of us in a family. And for me, it's my sole source of income. So to say you have to save for a rainy day. Well, for many of us, it's definitely raining. You gotta hunker down. So it's been tough for sure. Like I said earlier, it's a blessing I've been able to be home and help my brother and my family. So that's been great, being able to spend more time with them. And been tough. I can't go visit my granddaughter because you don't want to get close, whatever. But here in Wisconsin, where I'm from, and in America, things are opening up quite a bit. As you mentioned, I just went racing last weekend in Texas. There's more and more tracks starting to open up with limited attendance, or some of them are wide open. So I think in America, it's a bit different mindset from the citizens here in the government. Things are opening up more so than in other countries. Seems like Asia is still very locked down, and I think they're going to be some of the latest to open. Getting some message from some of my friends in Europe, and obviously you guys know, it sounds like some of the places are starting to soften up a bit and open up. But when racing is going to happen internationally, I originally thought that maybe I would think September or something like that. And we got some ETS stuff like that we're hopefully going to get things going. But it's still pretty up in the air if September is going to work.
I mean, I know they've started racing actually on a small scale in Germany already. So depending on how that goes and what safety precautions they're taking, and mainly what are the government decisions, that's going to play a big role in the next few months and what will be possible. So it's good to see at least some practice sessions and club racing starting again, because it will bring back some sales for the companies and everything. So slowly but surely it's starting again. So that's good to see on one hand.
Absolutely, for sure.
I think it's everyone has got this. I don't know, it's a bit of a double-edged sword. I think that there's everyone's appetite to race has been heightened because it's been taken away. You can't help but feel that it might actually be a catalyst to get people even more engaged with the hobby, because obviously the people that are going to get back racing, that's all going to be on their mind for a lot of enthusiasts. I know it is for me, and it's very difficult to not kind of share that with your friends that might not actually be, into RC. And there's just something about it that, I'm a golfer, and I know that there's so many people that have been itching to get on the golf course, enjoy the sunshine and with the outdoor season, being able to get back out there, race their cars, share it with friends, coming together with people that haven't seen each other for a while. It really feels like it could be a bit of a catalyst to push the hobby forwards again. What do you think on that, Scott?
Absolutely. It surely is. I think, when you take anything away in life that you have a passion for and you really, really long to do and enjoy doing, when you're taken away from that, you try to find things to supplement that, the adrenaline rush or things like you guys said. But I think the anticipation to get back out there, especially now when people are, as you said, Alex, tracks are starting to open up over there. I think more and more the itch is going to be there. I've talked to some people, and the shops are still able to do sales. A couple of the online places I know have still been doing that. I know locally here in Milwaukee, Trackside Hobbies, they opened up about a week ago. They had a good turnout for racing last Friday. People have been in the shop. They've been selling kits and parts and things like that. So I think taking it away for a few months is going to make people want it so much more. And the normal summertime things they might be doing, they might do racing, where, at least I can speak for here in Wisconsin, where I'm from in the States. Normally summertime people go out and they do golfing, as you say it, and other things. But now that we've all been home for 2-3 months, they've done all the yard work. They've done all the projects around the house. They've done all the honey-do lists that the wives had. and stuff like that. So now they got time to go racing. Some of the guys I was talking to at trackside here are like, oh, the wife can't complain when I go racing next week because I've been home for 3 months. I got everything done. So it's I think everybody's going to be very excited to get back into racing.
Well, let's talk about you, because obviously that's why we're on. Obviously, it was important to touch what's been going on previously. I mean, my first awareness of you, Scott, was I think it was the 2016 12 scale Worlds, and I can't remember where it is, but I remember obviously the call.
Beijing, China.
Well done, Alex. Were you there for that?
Oh yeah, Alex will know.
Yeah, I was there. I wasn't in the A main, unfortunately.
Well, I didn't want to go there with that because I didn't hear your voice being mentioned, or your name being mentioned. But that's the first, and I always show that clip because of the track, because of how close the race was, and the intro, because it was just the kind of the first time I'd ever heard you. Where did your opening to the races come from? Is that something that you sort of built up towards, or did you have a plan and say, right, this is kind of my thing?
No, I had no plan at all, and coming up with stuff to say, it's really weird. I mean, I've always said it since I started. I opened the shop in the early '90s, and we'd run weekly racing, and I just announced, and I never thought I would come up with certain things to say or whatever, but it's really weird. I say a lot of silly things for sure that everybody knows, but my starting thing, it never really was planned or whatever, just what I always started saying. And then it seems like it's probably been about 8-10 years ago where people really started, I don't know, just saying it's a kind of the thing that I do, and it's really weird, but it's the way I start races, and then people have enjoyed it, I guess.
And go for it, shoot, Alex.
So I've been racing for around 20 years, and I believe I first heard your name and recognized your now very famous announcing probably by watching the Reedy races from the early 2000s, the Touring Car of Champions. I think that's where you got your international fame originally from.
Yes.
And we've all seen those videos from the early 2000s with Barry Baker and Masami and all those guys racing, and that's where your voice really started to be known worldwide, and that's where I started to realize who you were and so on. So that's my best memory from your early days. But yeah, I mean, now you're recognized worldwide as the most famous announcer, and we have all seen the videos online, and hopefully Stu can join one of your events in the future as well, and Ant as well.
Yeah, that would be great to finally meet you guys in person, have you come to the races. But yeah, the Reedy race, Alex, that was the beginning of it all. I'll never forget the day I was at my hobby shop and racetrack, and phone rings, and it's Mike Reedy calling me, and so this would have been, I think, 2001, and he calls me up and say, "Hey, Scotty, would you be interested in coming out to California and announce and race direct the Reedy race?" And he says, "We'll pay for your flight, we'll pay you, we'll put you up." And I always tell a story. I said, hell, it was Mike Reedy. I'd have done it for free. I mean, this is the most glorious touring car race, in the world. It was just such an honor for him to ask me and want me to be part of it. And man, that just started it all. I went there, and as you said, Alex, that was kind of the beginning of it all, when people from around the world obviously watched that. And then I got other invitations, got to do some Euros and everything. It just went from there. And finally one day it was Masami said, "Hey, we want to do a race and bring you over to Yatabe Arena." And there's the epicenter of history of our world of racing. So to be able to do that, it was pretty amazing.
And what's your first memory of Scott?
Oh, I don't know. Probably the Worlds, the same as you, the 2016 Worlds. That was kind of when we were really getting into the hobby, wasn't it? 2016, and yeah, that I couldn't get enough of that, being on the TV and the announcing, and you know, my kid and my wife were both fully aware of the catchphrases and everything by the end of that meeting. So yeah, I'm interested. So you were saying about Mike asked you to go and do announcing and race directing. I'm interested in what your role is in the different races that you're a part of. Obviously, well, maybe not obviously, but things like the Asia Nitro Series and AOC are kind of yours under your banner. But you've got EWS as well. Can you tell us a little bit about what you feel your role is in those races? Is it different for each thing? ETS, are you doing more announcing compared to AOC?
Yeah, each one is a bit different. The Asian series that you mentioned, the Asian Nitro Championship and Asian Onroad Champ, the AOC, those are events that I started, I organize, I commentate, I race direct, officiate, kind of do all of that stuff myself. Some of the stuff, ETS and EOS, I'm 50-50 partners with Uwe Reinhardt. Uwe kind of does the organizing side of it and things like that, the planning, and at the races I do the officiating and the race directing, commentary, things like that. And so we're kind of partners in that. And then some events where, you know, I just get hired to come and be an MC, much like the World Championships and stuff like that. They asked me to come there and just be the master of ceremonies announcer for them. So each kind of race has a different task for me, still commentating, kind of race directing, but each one is a bit different and unique.
What's the most difficult out of those kind of three scenarios for you?
Well, the hardest part, especially for on-road, is the officiating side of my job. It's the part it's the hardest, it's the worst part of my job. Yeah, it's fun to announce and stuff like that, but things have changed so much in 10 years, and Alex will absolutely, you know, confirm this. In early days, everybody we raced, it was fun. You know, the guys like Barry and stuff like that, they were paid professionals to do this, but through the last 10 years or so, the job of officiating has become so difficult and so hard to make a decision because the cars are so fast. But now the decision we have to make in 0.2 of a second or 1 second, whatever you want to scale it down to, doesn't only affect that moment, it affects their career and their paycheck. And that's what people don't understand. You know, it's a tough part of the job. I accept it, it comes with it. But when you have to officiate and you have to make a judgment call like that, we don't have the benefit of instant replay and all that stuff. We have to make a decision like that. And we can be right or wrong. We're humans. We all make mistakes for sure. We do our best. But when we make a judgment call on something, and if we have to call a penalty on somebody, it affects their bonuses for winning the race. It affects their title shot at the series. It affects this and affects that in that split second. And that's the hardest part of the job. You know, and you can talk to 100 people and ask them, hey, I'll pay you to be an official at a race meeting, an on-road. And out of those 100, maybe you'll get 3 guys. Maybe you get 5 guys that said they would. But of those 5 guys, how many guys are qualified? And it's a very difficult job. And that's the hardest part of doing it. The announcing is fun, and race directing and back and forth with the guys, that's all fun. But the officiating and the stuff like that is the hardest. We have Franz is comes to our ETSs, and he helps officiate, and you know, he gets a lot of grief, and it's tough because people don't think of it that we have to make that judgment call in the last minute, and he does a great job and helps me be able to do it because I can't see it all, and you know, I'm watching, you know, first and second over here, and third and fourth are over here, and You know, it makes it tough. So that's the hardest part of my job. And Alex knows, he's been on both sides of us having to make a decision and things like that. And now with the paper thin bodies, it's so easy to tuck a body. And Alex can explain more. He's on that, like I said, the other side of it and the tough side of it.
Yeah, I mean, Stu and I have both reffed for national meetings, and I don't like it. I'm not ever going to do it again. We volunteer, and that's it. Yeah, I mean, you have people walk off the driver's stand and they're shaking their fists at you. You couldn't pay me enough.
Yeah, I mean, I've done it at nationals and doesn't like doing it, but I kind of like getting in there and getting dirty. I'm a alpha male guy, right? And I kind of don't mind upsetting people. But I think that you can kind of set a precedent, can't you? I mean, I think if you take soccer, football, you go one match, start throwing red cards around, and in a racing term, stick people in the box early on in a race meeting, or you do it to a decent level, and they're fair calls, and you stand strong on it. I think people all of a sudden go, oh, maybe I shouldn't cross the line here with this guy because I know what's coming my way. And I think that still doesn't make it any easier for your job. And I think the ref is always going to cop it, whether it's a good decision or not in many cases. But I think if you become the kind of iron fist of reffing, I think a lot of that, don't you think a lot of that could be taken out of the equation of people taking liberties? Because you see it so often, guys, really good racers, likes of Alex and just the elite racers in the world, they always just try and pinch an inch, don't they? Just at the wrong time. And sometimes, as you say, it can be at the detriment of other people. And it's so difficult from their perspective as well to know when to push that moment and when not to. But if they knew that if they did push that moment that they were going to get a stop go or whatever, maybe they wouldn't actually create that situation, and maybe they'd take a different opportunity. Equally, you could say that they might not actually go for an attempt on overtake because they know they might get chastised for it. So I suppose for racer and official, it's a difficult one. I've sort of talked around in circles there. You were going to say something, Alex.
Yeah, I completely agree with what Scotty said about it becoming increasingly difficult to take decisions as for calling a race. And I think part of the problem is, as you said, that there's so many guys sponsored these days that they got something to live up to. They got someone to answer to. They gotta deliver a result, and everyone is putting so much pressure on themselves to do well. And no matter if it's a smaller event, a club race, or an ETS, everyone wants to win all the time, and they want to post on Facebook that they won this race, and then it becomes super serious to a point where they sort of forget that it's a hobby for most people, and that's a fine line which we're walking on. And it's I can understand your frustration.
It's definitely tough, and we're blessed at the ETS. We have, it's a world championship pretty much every round. You got Alex, you got Ronald, you got Bruno, you got Mark, you got, the best drivers on the planet, every 6 weeks we're racing it. And as I said, they have many things to meet and obligations, and it affects their livelihood and everything like that. So it sure is tough. And as much as I say it's difficult, it's a part of the job I don't like, it's all the rest of the part of the job that makes me continue to do it. When I get to see these guys all the time, and we get to see young guys come up and begin, and I'll always remember Mikhail Orlowski when he first started racing, running a TT plastic tub car and just having fun, and now arguably one of the best off-road racers in the world. And that's for sure one of the best parts of my job, when I see these kids grow and become enthusiasts, and then passionate about it, and become some of the world's best. It's there's many sides to my job that I truly enjoy.
Shoot, Alex.
So I gotta ask you, what's your single favorite race that you ever announced as a main or a qualifier? Your single favorite race ever?
I just had to pick.
Alex won't be offended if it's not one of his.
Well,
yeah, exactly.
Well, it had to be Nitro Worlds in Thailand, right? When you got your first title and everything. That was.
Yeah, that's my favorite, but I don't know if
Of course.
yours or not.
I guess when people ask me what is it, I'll always flash back to one of the first ones I got to do was U.S. Carpet Nationals in 1997. I was there as a racer, and they asked me, "Hey, Scotty, you want to come in and help?" I was traveling around racing the circuit of on-road races in America back when I used to race a lot, and they asked me to do it. And it was 12 scale modified, A main number 3, Josh Searle, Joel Johnson, 2 Americans, greatest 12 scale racers ever. And back in the day when 12 scale was in its most epic state, that's no disrespect to what the guys do now, because they're 10 times faster, but that when it was a true 8-minute race, when the batteries died in that last minute and everything, and it was A main number 3 all on the line, they came onto this long straightaway, and both their cars, the batteries were dumping, they were running out, they were coming down, just banging doors like this, and it was a photo finish to the finish line for the win. And it's that was probably one of the sticks in my mind, because it was such a epic finish. Everything on the line. It was the first big major race I was involved in. Like I said, I was a racer. They just said, "Hey, Scotty, you want to commentate?" So I did. But that was amazing, and it's probably that is what built the passion for 12 scale that I love so much. It is absolutely, Alex knows this because we've talked about it, so many times, and I was in, being able to commentate many of his wins, and that was, that was one of the, probably the one that always jumps out first. That was just an epic final.
And this, I mean, I've got into off-road over the last 18 months with Ant, my good friend. He sort of pushed me towards that. And I obviously, with this lockdown, I've been trawling YouTube for, the EOS series, and obviously you're involved with that. And that's just, 3D racing is just a whole new level, and some of the car control that those guys have got. How does that sit? Obviously, you're an on-road guy by the sounds of it inherently. How does off-road sit with you? Is there much of a passion for that outside of the announcing?
Oh, absolutely. On-road, my career started with dirt oval. Dirt oval was what I started with. And then when I opened my shop, it was a carpet track, and we did on-road. So that's kind of what I grew through the 90s and 2000s. The carpet off-road and even dirt off-road, it's obviously it's totally different with the 3D and everything like that. I always tell everybody, I got the on-road stuff down. It's that third dimension that really kicks my butt. But I've grew to enjoy it immensely, whether it be as a hobbyist racing it, or as a commentator, announcing it and directing the races. And carpet off-road has been an amazing thing. It's been popular in Europe for ages, but in America, it's only started. Most of the places like here where I'm, my old track here, Trackside Hobbies, indoor dirt. But there's one, maybe 2 tracks in Europe, all that. So I really learned to enjoy that. The EOS really took off in popularity, and now we see that kind of form of racing coming popular in America. So it's wonderful. The car control, as you mentioned, that the guys have is just incredible, because cars are so fast on carpet. And when you see the likes to, Lee Martin, Bruno Coelho, Mikael Orlowski, and these guys throwing these cars around, doing stuff, that, through the air and everything like that. Yona Houghton, and the young kid, he's not a kid anymore, I guess. Another kid I've watched grow up and everything. These guys just have the stuff they do with them is amazing. And I've had some memorable races commentating for the EOS also in other events.
Alex, when you're racing, when Scotty's on the microphone, does it add something to it? Does it juice you up when you're doing well and Scotty's announcing it? Does it have a different vibe, or are you just kind of doing your thing anyway? And Scotty's kind of the cherry on the cake.
I think we can all agree on that. It brings a certain excitement to the race, which other announcers don't add to the race, if that makes sense. But as a professional racer, I race so many times a year with Scotty as an announcer. I'm so used to hearing his voice that it doesn't make me nervous in the way which it can make some drivers, I believe. But yeah, it definitely adds an extra dimension which the average announcer cannot add to the experience.
Well, it's my biggest. The thing I don't like is when people say, "Oh, Scotty, you make me nervous." That's the last thing I want to do. It really digs at me when people say that, because my intention is not to do that. My goal is to make the race exciting for not only the racers, but the people in attendance. And now, because of the internet, everybody that's watched them on YouTube, they can see a remote control car race, and it's not an IndyCar, and it's not Formula One or NASCAR, but hopefully they have the same feeling. Wow, it's exciting and stuff like that. And so when guys say, "Oh, it makes me nervous" and everything, it really chews at me, because I don't like that at all. And Bruno Coelho, it's he always like, "Oh man, Scotty's here" and everything. It doesn't make, he just kind of messes with me and everything. And a funny little story, 2 summers ago, the European Championships were in France, and I was going to a race, and I brought my young daughter with me, and we kind of lined things up so Sunday I could go to watch the finals of the European Championships there in France. And we took the train from Paris, and we went there and everything. And I never forget this. I was going there just as a spectator, just to watch it. And I walked in, and Bruno was standing upstairs, just kind of leaning on the railing, watching the track and everything. And we made eye contact, and he just shook his head like, "No, you better not be here to announce." No. And yeah, our friendship has grown, ever since, through the years, about that and everything. And I don't want to make people nervous at all. I just want to make the event more exciting, because I think to all of us, our hobby, when you have guys like Alex and Bruno and Mark and Ronald, all these guys going at it, and they're going 70 miles an hour down a straightaway, and they're this close, there's nothing more exciting than that. It is everything to, as watching Formula One or DTM racing or whatever. It's just it's thrilling. So my goal is just try to make it enjoyable for people to watch, for the wives to watch, their girlfriends, the families, stuff like that.
Can you imagine Ant racing 12 scale with Scotty commentating what it?
Well, yeah. So having done a couple of races in Europe with a commentator, because usually our races you have the referee and that's that. And when I was leading the Masters of Foam in the 17.5 class, and hearing your name and being told he's in the lead, don't mess it up, just concentrate, was it was pretty difficult, and I did end up putting it in the wall. So I'd struggle, I think, the first couple of times, but hopefully, like Alex, I'd grow into it, hopefully.
But I think that we all know. I mean, the European Championships this year, where Alex had a decent lead. There's something about that, isn't there? About kind of tripping over your own feet. It's so easy to do. All of a sudden someone says concentrate. Not that you ever say that, Scotty. You're beyond that. I mean, I think that's the beauty with your commentating. You are commentating on the race like it's a race, like two cars, like a Formula One race. You're talking about the cars as people, but you're actually still talking about the two cars racing with each other. And I think that's what's really good about it, because you actually get that feeling that these are actually two cars, not two blokes standing up on a rostrum controlling them. And I think that's, the adrenaline of that, and the racer still trying to keep that momentum, keep present, and keep doing his own job. Ant and I and Alex on talking about performance and getting better, and excuse me. And when you go up the ladder and you get better and better, and you suddenly are presented with Scotty Ernst on the stage, you are, as we've spoken about, a premier announcer, the Murray Walker of Formula One. When you get to that, when you get to that occasion, Christ, okay, this is a bit different. And obviously, as a professional driver yourself, Alex, you're used to it. But as a passionate hobbyist, my passion is to go around the world racing at these big events, and to have someone announcing it that's a celebrity like yourself in the RC world would be a fantastic experience. And I think we're so lucky to have these situations that create such an atmosphere, and you are that guy that creates that. Alex, as Alex has rightly said. You were going to say, Alex?
Thank you.
Yeah, there's one difference actually. When you're in a Formula One car racing around, you can actually not hear the announcing that's going on. So that's a big difference. You as an RC driver, you have to deal with this element of the announcer commenting on your every move. So I think that makes the job real difficult sometimes. I mean, I'm used to it by now, but I think it can really bring another level to the racing, which real racing doesn't have in that sense.
Have you noticed, Scotty, with certain drivers have certain tendencies, i.e., I don't know, some of the elite drivers, they have a tendency at the end of a run, or the tendency at the beginning of a run. Is there anyone that you can talk about that you notice their driving style, either positively or negatively?
That's a tough one, because everybody is so different. But the guys at the level of Alex, whether it be on road or it be off road, the Ryan Mayfields of the world and stuff like that, they have a focus that guys like you and I, that just it's just another level, and obviously it comes with their profession, and that's why they reached the pinnacle of our hobby and being world champions and just the elite of our hobby. It's amazing to see the focus, when they walk up on the driver's stand and they're walking up the stage, and they're talking to each other. They go up, and then they're out there, and like a flip of a switch, they go just to a focus level that is amazing to see. So that is what I noticed from many of the top guys, that just they can turn it on, their focus to do their job in just a blink of an eye. And it's just something I respect to. It's hard to put in the words how much respect I have for these guys.
And what do you think Scotty brings to an event?
Well, I think there's the stuff that we've talked about, the excitement and everything. But I think that the stuff that you've done, where you've created these series in Asia, and you've kind of reached out, and obviously Nitro was big in Japan, and there were people doing touring car all over Asia. But to bring it together and have these kind of world level races, the fact that Alex is now traveling, well, I mean, he was traveling all over before, but to travel to all these races and take part in the AOC and everything, and the guys in Asia to have these high level races, I think that's the biggest thing that stands out for me. That's the legacy that you're leaving behind.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. You go ahead, Alex.
To me, what means the most probably is the IIC, because I have so many good memories racing at the IIC, and I'm really sad that it's gone. And I had the pleasure to be racing at that event many times, and to me that's meant a lot for me as a racer and as a person, to be coming to those events. And yeah, many good memories from the IIC. And maybe you can talk a little bit about the IIC for those people that are not familiar with it.
Sure. The IIC is International Indoor Championships. It's a race that we've organized in Vegas for over 15 years. And in my early years, after the Reedy race started, after I got the gig and the invite to do the Reedy race, I wanted to organize a premier world-class event in the United States. And the only, really place to do it was Las Vegas. There's two main, attraction cities. There's Orlando, Florida. Mike Boylan has his Snowbirds race there. That's tremendous. Alex has been there many times, and it was a great event. I went there many times and raced. So I wanted to do something somewhere else, and Vegas was that other place I wanted to do. And it was something I pitched the idea. It was at the 2003 World Championships in Cincinnati, Ohio, the first IFMAR Worlds I got to announce. And we were at a Outback restaurant, steakhouse, with a bunch of the Nitro guys. Ralph Birch was there, Josh Searle, and a bunch of guys. And I pitched the idea to them and said, hey, what about a big electric race in a casino, in Vegas? And they said, sign us up, we'll do it. And I put pen to paper and started doing that. And in 2005, we were able to do it and make something special, because I wanted to do something totally out of the norm. Most of the races around the country were very similar, minus the Reedy race. The Reedy race was special, and that format of racing will always be the greatest style of racing. But I wanted to put an event in where it wasn't just a bunch of guys getting together to race. I wanted to make it an event for the participants, for the families, for the sponsors. A lot of times back in the early days, you go to race, there's a few banners on the wall, and the commentator would thank, these companies for being there, and that would be it. But these companies spent a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of resources, send their guys there, supporting and sending door prizes or money or whatever it is. So I really wanted to make it a spectacle where the manufacturers and sponsors were as much a part of the race as the participants. And we built something pretty special. And as Alex said, he's had many memories. I remember the first time he came. He was 18 years old, came with a bunch of his buddies, came to Vegas. They were too young to go to the casinos or whatever, but they came. And I remember when I found out his birthday, we got a cake for him and everything. And, that kind of began, our relationship and everything. We've been, best friends ever since. And that race will always be the most dearest to my heart, because that race changed our industry, I feel. I'm not saying this arrogantly or whenever. Something I'm very proud of. Because of those things I just talked about, we tried to make the event more than just a gathering of races. And like I said, we made importance to the sponsors. And I had a big 40-foot banner that had the companies that were on it, and banners all the way around the track. And people said, oh, why did I do that? And they don't realize it, but when people are taking pictures around the racetrack, taking pictures of the car or whatever, the reason I do this, every picture you see of a car on the racetrack, behind it, there's a banner in the background of one of our sponsors. And people don't think of that. So I wanted to really give the sponsors something. So now when you watch any of our videos that we put on, and there's banners everywhere, they're in all the videos. They'll live forever on the race. So the companies that sponsored our events, their sponsorship and their branding and anything in advertising, all about branding, it lives forever now in pictures and videos and everything like that. And that's one of the things that I really wanted to do it in. We've made it happen through all the events. And now I'm proud to say you see many other events really kind of spend more importance in the branding for the sponsors. And I had some off-road races. We painted the sponsored logos on the dirt on the face of the jumps, and it just gave them more branding and wanted them to be part of it. So I hope it made our industry better, and the races that we put on and organize better.
When is IIC, Scotty?
Well, sadly, it's over. It's usually it's been October every year, but if we rewind before the virus, I started in 2005, and in 2006 and 7 is when the economy crashed and everything, and Vegas was hurting for customers. They would do whatever, and then we were a very profitable group for them. We we had to book about 800 room nights, and we bring a lot of people to Vegas. Then over the last 10 years, Vegas got more and more popular, and our small group, we are we are nothing to the Coca-Colas of the world and the BMWs of the world and stuff like that. So the floor space that we have to rent inside the casino, we just can't afford to do it in our little industry. And it just, I couldn't do it anymore. It was very unfortunate. As I mentioned earlier in the show, everything happens for a reason. Thank God I don't have a contract going into this year, because if I had a contract in October with this whole virus and everything, I'd be financially devastated, because the amount of the contract I have to sign with the hotel, most people couldn't fathom the financial guarantee I have to give a hotel for 800 room nights and stuff. It's pretty tough. So sadly, we're not able to do it, but you know, as Alex knows, we had amazing events. It's something I'm most proud of. So am I disappointed in not being able to do it anymore? Yes, but in hindsight, I'm so proud of what we gave the industry and racers for so many years that it's something we'll always look back and be proud to be part of.
And what about your own racing, Scotty? Where does that fit? I know you did the Texas Biggie this past weekend, but where does that sit on your horizon? Obviously, you're full-time announcer, and that's obviously racing around these events. Do you fit in some racing yourselves along the way?
I do. I try, yes. Actually, I'm sitting here at Trackside Hobbies now. We got off-road racing tonight, so I'm over there working on my associated cars and getting them ready to go do a little bit of racing tonight. So I'm pretty excited. But now that I'm off all summer, I'm going to be a racing fool. I love the racing for sure. I don't get to do it as much, but now I think my first announcing job is going to be, knock on wood, hopefully ETS will get going in September again. And so I really don't have any work until September. So I'm going to be a crazy racer for the next couple months. I'm looking forward to it.
And yeah, Alex, shoot.
I have a bunch of questions. I can ask away.
Perfect.
Oh boy, question time here.
We're all leaning in.
Okay.
What have you got?
So you travel more than anyone I know. What's your favorite country to travel to?
Just as non-racing wise, I'll have to say the Philippines. That's probably my favorite place to go all over. It's obviously very exotic, and the weather and things like that. The culture is really amazing. The people there, and it's somewhat affordable. Everybody speaks English, even though they have their own language. English has been a big part of it. I spent a lot of time there when I was in the U.S. Navy, and that's kind of where I learned to fall in love with it. And I really enjoy that. If we're just going to one country in the world that I love to go to, above all, that'd be it.
Cool.
Keep going, Alex. Have you got some more?
Yeah, I got some more. So how many top tier frequent flyer cars do you currently have?
So
these
I
are the
guess
questions that we want to know the answers to, Scott.
I guess with all the flying I've had here over, especially the last 10 years, I've really learned to play the game. More so, Alex he knows all about it too. And being in the U.S., I used to fly Northwest Airlines, and then they got bought by Delta. And then I was at the top tier of Delta and just learned more and more about the game. And then I found ways you can get status. If you're at the top level on one airline, you can send a letter to request top status on a competitor's airline, and they'll give you a challenge. You got to fly this many miles and spend this much money in 90 days. Then you get the top tier. So over the course of the last 6-7 years, I had top status on Delta, United, and American. And that worked out well because when you reach the top level, you get some benefits. The business class upgrades, that is the only thing that really matters to a guy like me. I'm a big guy. I'm not built for economy, like Alex is, you know what I mean? So if, 1 out of 20 trips, I can get bumped up to business class, it's nice. So it doesn't happen very much. I know you guys in Europe have a far better opportunity for that than we do in the U.S. It's very few and far between. You got to pay extra money and a whole lot of miles and stuff like that. So it's you try to find the ways. So depending what airline's the best works it. But lately I've been flying American Airlines the most. I think that's got the best frequent flyer program and mile accumulation and everything like that. So now I'm an American Airlines guy. So
Scotty, let me throw you this question. How do we make our hobby big enough to hit the high street? I.e., how can we make our hobby be accessed easier by kids, by people that have never heard of it? I mean, because I'm pretty sure that if someone down the road knew that there was a track that's open on a Sunday morning in a school hall, and there's 30 guys in there racing 12 scale, they would have no clue. How do we reach out to these people? And I think being Mr. Showbiz of RC, it kind of falls on guys like you to kind of reach out, because you're you know, if you showed a bunch of people that 2016 YouTube clip, they'd go, "Oh my goodness, I want to have a bit of that." They would never believe it. So how do we reach people? How do we get them involved in our hobby?
That's always the biggest challenge, and we all agree our racing is very exciting and thrilling, and people that watch it, once they see it, they'll want to do it. There was a video we had going that ended up going viral from the EOS. I think it was at the Hootie Arena with I think Bruno Martin-Walanka and everything. He jumped over the top of him, millions of views and everything like that. And so the interest is there from the racing enthusiast, but the hardest thing is, as you said, getting the word out there. You guys in the UK have something very unique, and pardon me for not knowing the club's name that does that race in the shopping mall. They just had the Worlds there, and they did the Reedy race there and everything. That is the most epic venue and opportunity to do it in the mall so people could see. That's an amazing thing. The problem is you can't afford, a regular club or organizer like me can't afford to rent that space regularly or twice a year, even one a year. It's very, very rare can you do that to be able to reach the masses. So our racing end up being in sports halls and schools and different thing. And as I mentioned before, the IIC, it got so expensive now that we can't afford to do it. And that's the hard part. We've tried in our industry to get the Coca-Colas and BMWs and, all the Home Depots, all the companies that are outside the industry, try to get them involved to gain some exposure. And it all comes down to money. When, many times I've reached out to the big corporations to try to get some sponsorship money to help us expand and do advertising and things like that. But, you go to them and you ask for $5,000, they won't even entertain it. They're talking $50,000, $100,000. Then okay, and then they just want to know the EOI on the eyes on investment. If they're gonna put $25,000 in a race, they want to know how many eyes are going to be shown their branding and stuff like that. And that's where we lose, because on a huge race, our biggest races in Vegas, we had probably 300 bodies. We had 700 entries, or the big ETS we have at Dawn and stuff like that. We have 250 bodies, but there's no exposure for the masses for these companies to be involved. So until you can rent the city center in downtown Vienna or the shopping mall like you guys have in UK, where you get thousands of people to do it, it's very, very hard. And unfortunately, I put on a lot of races, obviously, but when I make phone calls and I call these corporations, I get the no guy. No. I can't reach 8 people on and get to the yes man that really makes the decisions. And that's the hardest part. And until you know somebody. Yeah, I know Jim, the vice president of Oakley. You know, let me pitch this to him and everything. And then he has the same questions we do. Sure, we'd love to get involved. How many people are going to be there? 5,000, 10,000 spectators? What's it going to be? And we're like, 300. Then, you know, so it's tough. And, you know, a company like Traxxas, obviously everybody knows Traxxas. They've done epic things with our hobby, exposing it. When they came out with the Traxxas Slash many years ago, it came in, that short course truck came in under the radar. Nobody in our industry saw it coming, and it changed our world. The amount of tens, if not hundreds of thousands that kits these sold to get to average enthusiasts that are just running in the street really got it out to the mainstream. And when you go to the auto auctions, and they got involved in NHRA dragsters, and they'd have a truck there, it really got it out to so many other places. Team Associated and Team Losing got involved with the short course, going out to the Lucas Oil races and stuff, trying to get it out to the masses, and that helped a lot. But it's still, to get it out to the masses, you know, is a challenge, and it always will be.
Because I think that's where the conversation needs to be. I think, you know, obviously Alex with X-Ray, you know, Ant and I run a Yokomo buggy. I've run an X-Ray 12 scale. You know, these companies kind of joining arms. You know, the Traxxas. You only have to go on YouTube and see a clip that they've put out that's had 5 million views. You know,
right.
if you got these companies to join arms in a social media sort of umbrella to put the word out there and try to get some momentum, and try to get the corporations to see that actually, you know what, if we had about 5 companies streaming live on YouTube, live on Facebook, there could actually be 5 million people watching across the globe. And I think that's where, for me, there needs to be more emphasis rather than on smaller entities, because of course you're one man that has got an incredible voice, but you can only shout so loud because you are only one voice, a very good voice. But and the same for Alex. You know, Alex is putting out lots of tips on YouTube. I'm doing some stuff, but to get enough clout to actually make something grow, I think bringing people together can only be the way. And they're just, for me, there has to be a way. I think there must be some mechanic that you can create to generate some momentum across all the forums, and a consistent message. You know, you look at the World Championships that we've just had at Milton Keynes, the place that you referenced. You know, there was an incredible push in the UK for it, you know, about people coming down and watching it because it was in the UK. Now, if you did that with many championships that are going on all of the time, there is arguably something for someone to watch on RC racing every single week of the year, live, if they wanted to. But who would know about it? And I think that's, for me, that needs more promotion, more thought, rather than trying to get a sponsorship for one event. Because I think, as you rightly have experienced, it's just too hard.
It truly is, and it would be a full-time job to be able to do that. And you know, there's many of our sanctioning bodies, whether it be ROAR, EFRA, or IFMAR, and everything like that. I am a big believer in that those groups need to be a paid position. If you're going to be president or whatever of those, they need to be a paid position, because, and I'm going to that because those groups, I think, can be the group that pushes our industry. If we rewind 20, 30 years ago, when EFRA and ROAR and IFMAR all first started, people had time to volunteer. They weren't working 8 days a week, and they weren't working 26 hours a day. They have your job from 8 to 5, you get home, you have time to volunteer. Now we fast forward to the current times, these people that are presidents of these organizations, stuff like that, you know, they have no marketing budget, they have no marketing people, everything like that. And that's why I think our organizing body should be that. And I think if we had a marketing person, that those organizers could do just like you say, make a push and try to promote, like you said, Milton Keynes, they had a huge push for that. But people are so busy in their lives to be able to get off their job and get home at 6, have dinner with the family, and then try to put in 2 hours of work or sending out everything. That's tough. So I'm a big believer if our organizing bodies in our hobby could become paid positions, and I gladly pay another $10 a year, $20 a year if we had a marketing director that worked at all the U.S. national races and made, so he makes $70,000 a year. Great. We'll hold him accountable for that, but use that, contact these clubs, contact the school groups or whatever, and say, hey, this race is going on in Texas this weekend. It's free to come. Bring your kids down on Friday. Give them a field trip to come do it. We'll get a try-me track next to you with these trucks that they can try, all that stuff. But guys like us to be able to do that from our full-time jobs, it's huge work to do, and makes it hard. But yeah, it definitely needs something to happen.
Alex?
Yeah, that's a problem for myself and most other professional racers, that we're only paid to promote what we know to people that already love the hobby. And our job is not really to bring new people in, unfortunately. And for me to start doing that, I would need more time, and I would need to put aside what I normally have to do, which is racing and promoting my brand to people that already are hooked on the hobby.
What do you think? Yeah, and wisdom is coming our way here. Wisdom's coming our way. Scott, you listen to this. This is wisdom.
This is probably not wisdom, but the thing that I look at when for things that are successful that shouldn't be successful, the Red Bull put on all sorts of different sporting events. They have the air race, and all sorts of really cool stuff. But they do this soapbox racing, right? And they do it in city centres all over the world, and they manage to get all of these things cordoned off, shut down. All the things, probably buying the mayor of the town and all of that, and they have, it's on TV, and they have thousands and thousands of people come to watch it, and it's soapbox racing. It's pretty rubbish compared to RC, right?
Oh, for sure.
But they've packaged it, and obviously they've bankrolled it, but they must be making money out of it because they're doing it year after year, and it's getting bigger. So to be able to see something like that, which is it's got it has got this sense of occasion and silliness about it. So perhaps there's something we could learn from Red Bull's approach to getting niche sporting events out to the public. But like Scotty says, they're backing it. It's money. They've got a team of people being paid, decent amount of money every year to do this stuff, think of this stuff and put it on. And that's the only way we're gonna get it going.
I agree. And to do it in the masses in front of people, 8-scale buggy, that's 8-scale buggy is, a thrilling for people to watch. They want to see cars flying through the air and stuff like that, the sound of the night for the pit stops and everything. And there's no doubt if you put that in a city center somewhere and have that marketing team behind it, thousands of people will come. There's no doubt about it. And they'll be on the edge of their seats enjoying it and watching it and seeing that. Yes, our race format would have to be different, much like a Reedy race where every race has to be a race, no qualifying, go-kart 1, go-kart 2, none of that. It has to be heads-up racing. That's what would thrill the people, and it would be brilliant to be able to do it. But just getting to the right people at Red Bull to say, hey, we can do this. It's tough for sure.
The just thinking about the off-road, off-road. So they do add-on events that motocross races and supercross races. Where the Nitro On-Road Worlds was in California, I believe that's a full-size racing facility as well. So perhaps there's some sort of crossover opportunity with full-size races and add-on races there. But yeah, I don't know. I've got 3 full-time jobs, so it's not something I'm able to get involved with.
Well, I've got the feelers out to all the companies that are involved in this Supercross, Monster Energy motocross thing that, they rent the Anaheim Arena and the Coliseums and all this stuff. I said, just put some dirt outside in the parking lot. We'll put some fence. We can invite 15 of the top drivers in America and put on a show. For sure, we can do it. But the problem is getting to the right person that makes the decisions at Monster or whatever to do that. That's way beyond anything I have access to. You have to know that guy that makes the decisions, because then we can put on a show for sure. That's an easy thing, but just trying to get to that right person. Like you said, most of us have multiple jobs, and being able to do that is surely tough.
Yeah, one of my we did a podcast, or we do a Thursday evening Spashit's Speed Secrets. So Dave Spashit comes on, and we have a bit of a Thursday evening live session, 8:30, just to keep everyone during lockdown. Ant and I come on, we do a Zoom meeting like this. We've got 30, 40 guys come on, we talk about stuff. And I'm kind of trying to push the podcast, push the YouTube channel. And my dream, and one of the things I talk about was performance and getting better, and how you can keep motivated is having a bit of a dream, and so you can keep getting up and getting better. And so my dream is that, and the reason behind all this is to run an event like yourself. So I tried to put something together last year or the year before, Race to Celtic Manor. Now, Celtic Manor is in Wales. It's a big hotel, really big hotel. It hosted the Ryder Cup. I'm not sure if you're aware of the Ryder Cup.
Yep.
Yep. It's a really big venue. And I got a hall, or big hall, all the rooms, a bit like Snowbirds. But of course, it came at a bit of a premium, and it was quite expensive. And so people didn't quite go for it. And so it had to be called off. So my dream is to create that event, but let what we're doing on YouTube, subscriptions, getting a bit of advertising going, to try and create some revenue to build an event at Race to Celtic Manor that will hopefully predominantly be free for the drivers, to get some momentum and create a big event. Now, they've got a huge area where they could hold outdoor off-road, indoor. So it could be an all-encompassing indoor and outdoor event. But of course, it's a big property to rent out, a bit like Vegas. But you have to start somewhere, don't you? And I think once you get your foot in the door and you create something that people can see, I mean, it's a bit different in Vegas. I mean, Wales, Newport in Wales is not quite Vegas. So it comes slightly cheaper than Vegas. But nevertheless, you have the opportunity to create something big that can be a bit of an extravaganza. And I think that's what our hobby needs. And that's what you do so well with your race series. And it's a tough one, isn't it? Because you've got your race series, but they're still in a hall, big to the RC community, but they're not big to the world. And I think that's where we need to drive more traffic to get our hobby growing. So there's more profit, so there's more money flying around, so there's more people wanting to take part and buy into it, and buy into something that's really, really good. Because, from a kid, I'm sure I'm going on, but when I was a kid, I learned so much about engineering, physics, building this buggy at 10, 12 years old with my dad. And there was such a great time building a relationship with my dad and building this car, go out and race and do well and come home on a Sunday. How many kids are missing out on that? They're playing an Xbox, learning very little, sitting on their backsides and eating junk food, where we've got a hobby that can not only give them a great pastime, but actually teach them a lot about mechanics, physics, skill sets and all this kind of stuff. And I think it's our duty as companies, groups of individuals, to get together and try and promote it. And I think you are that guy that does that so well. And Alex too. You're two guys in the industry that, for me, are two of the greatest ambassadors for our hobby. And I think that is something to shout about, and for us to use to drive more traffic, because I think it's where the hobby needs to be.
Appreciate it. It's very kind of you. And I was actually going to go to your race that you were planning there at the Manor and everything. I was trying to figure out, flights and how to all do that. So because I was off during that time, and I was like, hey, I want to go to a race and everything. So I was keen to go to that and everything, and that would have been neat. But the struggles as organizers. People see, wow, they had 400 entries, at $60 a piece, and they start doing the math and everything, and they have no clue what the logistics is behind it. That makes it quite a challenge. And I truly enjoy what I do, and I would love to do it on a grand scheme, scale in front of 10,000 people, because I share the same passion you guys all do with the hobby, to be able to expose it to more people. I'd love to do it. And your comment about Xbox and kids and stuff like that, we face that in the hobby shop world every Christmas time. People come in, the parents want to buy their kids something. They're like, oh my God, it's $200. And when you figure everything, it's going to be $300. And I have the same line I've sent to hundreds of parents through the years of 20 years of owning this shop is, all right, the kids, they got a PlayStation, they got an Xbox. Yeah, okay, that was $299. And they pay us $60 for the game. And they play that game for 2 weeks, and then they've solved it, and then they're done. I said, so you easily have $400 invested in this that they're sitting on their butts, not doing anything. Where this car, they learn all the things you said about physics, the gears and transmissions and all that stuff. And I am a firsthand example. My eldest daughter, Sarah Ann, grew up in our hobby shop, and she learned how to do all this. And for sure, I know it made her a better person, because if she has a flat tire on the street on the car, in a real car, she's going to know in an emergency what to do. And that all comes from the RC cars. So I agree with you firsthand 100% that the skills that kids can learn from our hobby outweigh and equals any expense parents spend on other things to entertain their kids.
Well, I think this probably is a good time to sort of wrap things up. Conscious of time, and your time is precious. So, anything to add, Ant?
No, I was just going to say, enjoy your race tonight, and I hope that you win.
Oh, no, I think I'm going to be racing my daughter. She won last week, and there's no chance I'm going to be able to beat her. It was I'll always remember that, the time when you're racing, your kids come up and you're able to beat them, and that one day when they're finally faster than you and everything. People always think, oh, did you feel bad? I'm like, absolutely not. It's the proudest moment you can have, that, when you get beat by your own kid. It's the greatest. And someday Alex will know it, because he's got a youngster. So, when they get to race, and my granddaughter is 2.5, and she's going to be racing someday. So it's just a bit of pride, but it's fun. I got a saying that say the older I get, the faster I was. You know what I mean? I go back a long time. Used to be fast, but I still love the hobby. I love the competition and getting to hang out with everybody. That's the best.
Now you need to go and get yourself some form of microphone, because you know what's coming up. I'm just going to go over to Alex. Get yourself some form of microphone. So, Alex, anything to add?
I would just like to say thank you guys for letting me co-host this podcast, and thank you, Scotty, for coming on. I hope that we can all meet up at the track soon. And yeah, it's been too long not seeing you guys, so that's it.
Alex, it's great to have you here, and thanks you guys for asking me to part in. Alex is one of our industry's greatest champions for sure, always will be. And I have a ultimate amount of respect for you, Alex, and how you handle yourself. You're the ultimate professional in our world, and I think you set the example for a lot of people. You're as competitive as any of our champions in the world, but you also people respect your professionalism at the track, the way you present yourself and everything. It's we all appreciate and respect what you do and how you handle yourself. It's great.
Well said. Scott, we always give our guests an opportunity to thank whoever is important in their life, who's supported their RC passion. So this would be a great time to thank whoever you'd like to thank, really.
Oh man, that's a tough one. I've had a blessed career in the RC world for sure. And, I was just talking with, some friends here at Trackside just the other day when we started. I started in the late 80s, and all the companies I've had been able to be part of. And our industry is it's so big, but it's so small. And I've been when Mike Reedy first invited me to race, him and I became we have a friendship that he's since gone, but I always wear the Reedy banner for sure. And that's something that I'll always do and team associate all the guys. And now I'm a big 8-scale racer now, you know what I mean? So I got my Infinity car and all that stuff. So, so you look at the companies that help me as sponsors, but just this place where I am, Trackside Hobbies, it's been part of my life. I opened the store in '93. I sold it a few years ago to a dear friend, Jamie Tenney's, and him and his son have taken it now above and beyond what I did. And it's great. So, the industry has treated me well. I've been part of it. I've cut my arm, I bleed RC. It's in my soul. And I made a comment to somebody, if you go into my phone and you scroll through all the contacts, every single person in my life, I could not go into my phone and find somebody and call them up, say, hey, you want to go to a movie that's not in the RC industry. Every friend I have in my life, next to a few maybe high school reunion people I met last year, everybody in my life is from the RC industry, whether it be friends or acquaintances or whatever. It's part of my heart, part of my soul. I'm sure I'm going to have something on my headstone that says RC, because it truly is something that I've learned to love, and it's become my life. So I love it, always will, always be part of it until I die. So I really appreciate you guys asking me to be a part of this. It's really cool. And again, another negative that turns a positive, our industry, with everybody being at home. We've seen all these. I've watched many of Alex's videos, and granted, I don't race touring cars and stuff like that now, but there's a little bits of information that I can learn as a racer myself and use it, to just better my mechanicking and stuff like that. So it's, this has allowed us to do more and great shows like you guys. It's wonderful. Thanks for asking me to be part.
Well said. Well said. Scotty, would you do us the pleasure of signing out the show with your famous start to a race? Would you do us that dignity?
I'm a little rusty here since I haven't done it, but I'll be happy to. So thanks again for asking me to be part of it. Drivers ready, quartermasters ready. We're going racing on the sound of the tone.